I'd like to officially call to order the Tuesday, February 6, 2018 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. As always, we'll start with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
I'm Jeff Bryan.
Laura Stevenson, Rebecca Longhall.
Excellent. Starting off this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent proposed by Brandon Ducharme for 258 Hudson Road, public meeting held this evening here at the Hope Building.
All right, well, I figured I was here, so I just wanted to give you guys a brief update. We're obviously still working on plans. Planning board, we initially met back in December. I think we opened up now the whole project.
Yep.
18-lot subdivision, and the notice of intent was filed for the roadway as well as the basins. We did have a chance to go out and a site visit. And I don't know if there's any update you guys have on that, but we kind of looked at the proposed roadway. We looked at a couple of basins in relation to the wetlands areas. Where we're at with the planning board is we've opened up the initial hearing. We've gone back and forth with Fred Hamway, the town's consultant.
Yep.
Prior to the last meeting, we copied you guys some of the comments that Hamway had.
Yeah.
And the idea here is once we work through those, we'll have one final revision, which when we submit to the planning board, we'll also submit to you folks in the hopes that we'd come back after that to hopefully wrap up the intent.
Makes sense. I should apologize. I was supposed to be at that site visit. I got stuck at work. I could not make it out that day.
It's all right.
But from those, because Jeff, you went, right, with
Yep.
Rebecca?
Yep.
Any initial thoughts or feedback?
Nice place. You know, I didn't see anything, did you? I mean, the wetlands are marked off pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't see anything substantial. It was nice now that we have the plans to go back out on the property. I know Brian and I were out during the ANRAD, ORAD process, so we were a little bit familiar and got our bearings then, but it was good to put into perspective where the drainage basins are going to go in relation to the resource areas, and they're basically the best possible areas, in my opinion.
Yeah. See, planning and everything, but it seems like moving everything relatively comfortable with the way things are proposed so far. And we'll see the final plan when it comes and go from that, but
And
sounds
most
like
of the rest of the project, aside from those basins and the driveway, are outside the resource areas. So I think there's only 2 or 3 lots, which they're not proposing any structures yet on the lots, it's just the driveways, and then associated drainage systems. So it'll be interesting when those lots come in, but those are in the buffer, not in the resource area.
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit with the sidewalk. So there's probably, there could be as many as 4 lots that are going to be in closer proximity, that we will be coming in. We're looking to file individual notice of intents on each of those lots, but for work in the buffer zone. As we go through individual site plans, we can do septic designs and all that will be coming in. The plan is to get going to that now, so I anticipate we'll be here probably spring time. Yeah. With those.
And so in that case, you need to ask for a continuance, right? If you, would you?
Yes,
like it, yeah.
we're requesting
Requesting
to continue the public meeting.
Okay, and our next meeting,
Which one?
and that's 20th?
Does that work, or?
I think so. Let's go for that. I believe the next planning board meeting is the 14th, if that makes sense. I don't know. Is that Wednesday?
So we can
Yeah.
put you up to the 20th and continue if necessary.
It is, yeah. So I think we're on the 14th, so.
All right.
Definitely correct, yeah.
In that case, I would like to make a motion that we continue the hearing for notice of intent for 258 Hudson Road, Keys Farm subdivision, until our next meeting, February 20th, 2018, at a time to be determined and posted. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So continue. We'll see you after planning. You're for the COCs as well?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys Doing other business, is it a public hearing or is it just a?
It is a public hearing. And you can stay there unless you want to move it and then come back.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about the $36,000 left in the five-star dam article that was never used, that was brought up at advisory, and they are asking if we are in or able to return that to the general fund, basically. Since it was extended once the work was completed, there was other funds that can be used on the property, and we will need to do more work on the property regarding the upper dam wall because it's feeding to a road away. The issue is they asked that it be completed in this fiscal year, which I do not see happening, because from wetland standpoint, it's either going to be, I would at least encourage it to be done during the drier season. And on top of that, we still don't, we'd have to go through the permitting process, and we would also need to get the request for proposals out, and I don't see that timeline working within this budget season.
This was the one, it was initially proposed when Carol was leaving.
Right.
So it's been a few years, which also, and there's a number of good reasons to turn the money back over, but part of it too is just to reassess too, that it wouldn't hurt to get a new estimate and to take a new look at what's going on out there now and what they realistically think they can do. So my initial thought was to turn the money back. Again, there's no way it's getting done this fiscal year, unless we're just wasting money at that point and just throwing it at something. So is that something we would need to vote on? Or is it part of our overall budget?
It's part of the overall budget.
We can just save it and vote on it as part of the overall budget.
Yeah, they were just looking for a decision, so.
If everybody's comfortable with that, then we'll go
The
ahead.
money's 3 years old.
I think it's more
It's
than.
more than that. It was initially it was money left over from the original Five Shire Dam project.
Right.
And rather than turning that money back in, we had asked and proposed that we keep it to work on the upper dam, because they noticed there was still work needed on the upper dam.
Right.
So originally it was money, it might have been 4 years ago.
So nobody's done anything on it?
No, it was like the Five Shire was done. The original money raised for Five Shire was all spent, and this was the leftover for the upper dam that hasn't collapsed yet, so.
Yeah, it's not classic.
We'll, but yeah, we won't forget about it. It's just a question to get a new.
Yeah, and there's a couple, part of what they had requested from us was also in the capital projects moving forward. So I've been working on a list of those. For instance, Power Springs parking area will be one, depending on when, I'm not sure, but I'm creating a list and I'll have you all review it. And Five Shire will be on it as well.
You put together a little list.
Yeah. I mean, if any of you can think of some off the top of your head, please feel free to send me an email or call. But just from what I've seen, those are two that I'm closing.
It's possibly a good question for the trail committee
Oh,
meeting.
well, there's been some discussion about stuff they want to get done.
Yeah.
At the Trails Committee, but,
Yeah.
there's,
And this would be, Trails Committee projects are one, but these would be larger capital projects.
Right.
Like, for instance, the parking lot, but as people who use our trail systems often, it wouldn't shock me if Trails Committee people would have some good ideas.
I'll pass it.
Okay.
I'll pass it. I don't think we really have a chairman of the Trails Committee yet, I mean, Jeff Lawrence did it, he was, but now it looks like it's between Gordon and Taylor and Andrew. I can't pronounce his last name, but Drew, yeah, whatever his last name is. They've talked about it, it's been on the agenda. I think I copied CCD last minutes that were, but we'll make sure, I'll ask them to get that, put together a better list.
So it's 5 more minutes.
Upcoming meeting that's also a good question. Last year we did a reading for both days at the library and did a small activity in partnership with the children's librarian. So did basically the story hour. And that was helpful. The Earth Day event, I'm going to try and do the same thing, if not something similar. We had Bartlett Tree come and help show how to plant some seedlings. I'd like to do something out on one of the town properties. Maybe at the Common, I don't know. So the short answer is there's a lot of
Get all
ideas
those little
going
kids to
around,
plant,
but-
not weeds.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, except I'd be fearful that someone grabbed poison ivy, but
Good to know.
yeah. But that is, if you have ideas for that too, just let me know.
Planting trees is a good idea.
Did we have a March meeting date?
We don't as of yet. We could do the 6th and the 20th.
I could do the 6th.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Yep, fine.
Oh, it's locked.
Oh,
Well, the outside door is locked.
Yeah.
So it's really not a public hearing if we lock the door.
I'm trying to get out of here right now. Yeah, we're trying to get out of here really now. Brandon's doing his part. It's honest, you know. Is that just the 7:15? The, yeah, that's 2:38. So we probably reshuffle the other stuff and talk to you after. We get him on at 7:15. Was it long?
sometimes it's tough about the
So the 6th and 20th of March.
Yes.
So we'll go 20th, 6th, 20th. Have a chance for 2 minutes?
I did.
Last meeting?
I don't have any questions.
Issues?
Nope.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for the Conservation Commission's January 16, 2018 meeting as drafted and submitted.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Should have had this one.
Keep it beat.
I did.
Yeah, that goes bye-bye. We have an intern for the COC. All right, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for a certificate of compliance requested by Brandon Ducharme on behalf of the property owner of 238 Harvard Road. The public meeting to be held this evening.
All right, just to give a little history on this, I believe Lori was here when we did this. But it was in early spring of 2015, we came in with a notice of intent. And what had happened was 238, the home was built probably in the mid-'80s. And as part of that, the builder had filed for a notice of intent for the driveway crossing. And the replication area was never constructed, and the order of conditions was never closed out. So all of a sudden, the home came up for sale, as it should. The attorneys picked up on the fact that there was an open order of conditions. So we came in with a notice of intent, really just to construct a replication area. We had a plan that involved doing some earthwork, planting and all that. When we went out to the site walk, we kind of took a look at the area. And the area that was designated for the replication area had quite a bit of cinnamon fern and other nice vegetation there. And we decided, as opposed to kind of coming in and ripping all that out, we had this modified plan that came in and just we added some additional plantings, some red maple trees, some high bush blueberry, northern spice bush, sweet pepper bush, and red osier dogwood, just to kind of enhance the area. Probably early summer that year, we did the work. As part of that, because the property was selling, which is what triggered this, an escrow account was put in place by the attorney. So that's why we're filing this on behalf of the previous owners. That's kind of what I'm hearing, just because they're trying to get those funds back. In order to do that, obviously we need a certificate of compliance to close it out finally here. So it's gone through 2 growing seasons. This past fall, we went out, we took a look at the plantings one last time. Some of the high bush blueberry had been heavily browsed by deer, but by and large, the whole area looks good. It meets the regulatory compliance of greater than 70% wetland vegetation. So at this point, we're really looking to just kind of close this out and get this certificate of compliance. And we did take a quick look at this one too.
So did you go out on this one, or?
I was supposed to be there, couldn't find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
driveway that comes up.
Yeah, so I was in the area, but I wasn't
At the actual, but you made it out.
She made it out there, yeah.
There was evidence of cinnamon fern, you could even see, because we had the snow melt. There was still some snow on the ground, or ice, rather. You could see the spice bush. There's actually a tag on one of the bushes still too. But you can tell that although it's a skeleton right now, in terms of when it's leaf out, it is there, it's substantial across that area. Nothing looks dead or dried out. I mean, out of the season.
Right,
Like
right.
the cinnamon fern, you could tell was sort of done for the season, but.
We were on site that did the work, actually D'Amico's did the landscape plantings.
It had revegetated a lot. I mean, this was augmenting what was already.
Almost just 2 years old, 3 years old.
It's
It's
almost.
going to the 3rd year.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Kind of died, he did now.
Yeah, and it may have died, and the actual stuff tipped back over it. So unless anybody has any objection, fears.
No dogweed.
No knocking, no.
It looked good before. Yeah.
It was in decent shape before, yeah. All right, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 238 Harvard Road. Right? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
If you want to come up, now would be a good time. How do we have 10 minutes before we can do the CFC?
So Andres has reached out, is it Andres?
Andres.
Okay. He's reached out to me as having interest in the volunteer land steward position. So as requested, come before you all to give a brief introduction and share why the interest, why you think you would provide benefit to being a volunteer land steward, and if you have any questions for us.
Sure. So I'm Gus March. I am new to Bolton in the last 2 years. I came from Kansas City before here, and before there San Diego, and before there lots of other places. But this is where I'm settling down. My sister lives up in Wattaquatic Hill. So our kids go to Montessori together. We're finally home. I've done a bit over the years, just trail building and nonprofit work, and recently I'm just finding ways to give time back. My last thing that I did, I mentioned in the letter, was for Cliff Drive Committee, which was scenic byway Kansas City, the byway goes through the city, so it's like the only urban byway in Missouri, but it's mostly parkland. So the byway is road, obviously. We close the road on the weekends so that foot and bicycle traffic could go by, and spend a lot of time building hiking trails as well as mountain biking trails. And I did mainly actually fundraising and website stuff, but also got out there for cleanups and trail building, and just really enjoyed being in the outdoors. And so when I came here, I've been spending a lot of time going around, and I thought that this was an attractive, overlap in terms of being able to explore the area more. And I have a chainsaw, so
You have a safety permit?
is there supposed to be a
Well,
safety permit?
to go out on the
Oh, to go out and do it?
trail.
Yeah, no, I'm just doing it at home right now, but yeah, of course, in Massachusetts, I'm sure there's a permit for everything, so. So yes, I'm interested in helping out in any way I can.
You've been out on the trails?
Yeah, I live next to Von Hill, so I've really just been in a few areas. Bower Spring, I walk from Von Hill over to Bower
Whereabouts
Spring.
you live on Font? Where?
I live on Kettle Hole Road, so.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's,
I actually live on an interesting property, which I think was a point of contention for conservation a little while ago. It's about 75% conservation land. It's only got a little half-acre plot,
that's right.
and on like almost 3 acres of land. So there's 2 trail easements and conservation land, and the frontage is on Nashaway, but the driveway, there's an easement from Kettle Hole Road, and it goes downhill. So there's all that, I'm sure during construction, worry about runoff and all of that. And I'm sure the neighbors weren't happy of having someone build behind them, but it's nice for me. I live there, and it's a great setting when you're in that area. So yeah, we consider it a value add to have the conservation land.
yeah, Font Hill's nice, I like Font Hill.
So there wasn't really much in the way of description. I definitely have questions of what your expectations are, how I can meet them. I think I love nature. I love hiking. I like working outside, and I'm well organized and I communicate well. Above that, I can't say that I know the letter of the law around the wetlands in Massachusetts, but it's something I'd be happy to learn. And just want to know what you're looking for beyond that.
When it comes to wetland bylaws, half the time I have to read it before the meeting, so what does it actually say? Wait a minute. So don't feel too bad. When it comes to details for the job, this was a new position for us. We had a member of the commission who actually did a lot of this work just as a volunteer, and it was kind of formalizing a little bit more of what he was doing, and basically building a position around it. I would imagine this person would interface mainly with Rebecca as far as running some of the projects going through. In theory, the Trails Committee, actually is under the Conservation Commission. They're very autonomous, but they work very closely with the commission.
Sure.
And this position would probably interface with them as well. I don't know, did we have a ton of specifics written out? And part of it would be like, how would you like to see it function? Most of it will go in.
Sure. So a lot of the work comes out of the Trail Committee and what they do.
Yes, so the volunteer land steward, like he said, was basically just to memorialize the position that we had this wonderful volunteer who provided a lot of effort, a lot of passion, a lot of time into our trails, and we wanted to be able to fill that position if and when they decided it was time to take a step back and focus on their personal lives.
Sure.
So it does, the position certainly does interface with the Conservation Commission, myself being an agent of the commission, and along with the Conservation Trust and the Trails Committee. We are lucky enough that we have individuals representing the commission and the Trails Committee yes, the trust and the commission on the Trails Committee or involved in the Trails Committee. So it's fairly easy to stay on the ball with upcoming projects. As far as, the list, I'm not sure if you saw the description online, but it's quite extensive. There are Eagle Scout projects that may mean assisting Eagle Scouts with building bridges, Silver Award projects for Girl Scouts, same sort of projects. It is a real sort of community or communal entity in the fact that you have to communicate with a lot of people. We had our last volunteer did a lot of the mapping, and he's still doing that work, thankfully, and updating our maps as we go. But the land steward needs to be able to be out on the trails as much as possible. It seems like you're passionate about being out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out there either way. So.
I encourage you to venture out to our other properties as well, just
absolutely.
to familiarize yourself with it. But I'm not sure if you heard in the beginning, we were talking about cutting in a new trail and what that takes, and the volunteer land steward or a Trails Committee representative would come in and present that to the commission and say, I've walked it, I've taken some GPS points or measured the distance and said, are there wetland crossings involved? Is it ledge? Is it manageable to put a trail in there? How are we going to do it? Along with, we have supplies and equipment, and that's restocked, and our land steward basically just makes sure that everything's in there, and when things are taken out, it's replaced. The Conservation Department has a budget for that when necessary, so it would just be keeping in contact and sharing the information as it comes up. But so it's really map creation, out in the field, doing trail work. We have a lot of after storms, we have blowdowns, we have things in the parking areas. Just keeping an eye out to either keep it clear or contact myself if it's sort of a larger or more hazardous project, and then we contact DPW or our tree warden. So I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, that answers a lot.
And it's part of the fact that it was a new position, and really, like I said, really to formalize the work that one individual was doing, a lot of the work that this person was doing, that now we have a chance to really kind of form what that position would be.
Right.
You could really help us, or whoever ends up filling the role could help us really define what that position needs to be as we build out, like, what are the things that you're able to do, what are the things that are helpful to the commission, what is the trail committee looking for, and really kind of help to craft what that position ends up becoming. It's really it's in its infancy now.
Yes. I think something important to note as well, and I'm not sure if you had read it on the description, but you need to become a member of the Trails Committee as well.
Yeah, I asked about that because I didn't have, fine, I don't know what that means, so like either initiation or.
There is an initiation.
Yes. It's just you would.
I'm not sure what it is, but there.
You would be strongly encouraged, if not required, to attend those meetings.
Okay. And then this one is more as needed.
Yes, so this is if there's a trail that needs to be cut in or a crossing, or we had an issue with an abutter's invisible fence going across the trail easement. They didn't realize it wasn't their property. Situations like that we need to come to.
There were some issues with electric companies and, people, the trails being in there. But there are a lot of, it's important to be part of the Trails Committee.
Yeah.
So, because the members there all take pride in figuring out, okay, there's a blowdown. They go out and they take pictures of trees that are falling all over the place, and it gets back to, then the other fellow, Jeff, before that, was always organizing these, chainsaw and clearing and making sure everything was safe and all that kind of stuff. So it is, it's interesting, but the Trails Committee is looking for.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought it up. Winter meetings usually for for?
Well, we had a meeting, as a matter of fact, last Thursday. I think they're doing it once a month, but it is on
Once a month?
there's a meeting schedule on the website.
Yeah.
Trails, Bolton Trails, I forgot.
Committee,
Bolton Trails Committee website. There's a website.
Is it usually Thursdays?
Eh,
Okay, well, once a month is usually like, yeah, I can make anything
Well.
work once a month.
It's
I'm
just
just curious.
It was last Thursday, and, you know, there's a schedule of the next one.
I'll tell you
They're
what.
trying to do it on a monthly basis,
Okay.
and talk about it, but there's a lot of emails going back and forth because there's been
Yeah.
discussion about, you know, a lot of the stuff that was being done by Jeff, and not a lot of people knew
Aware of it.
where what was going on, and, you know, he was a good guy. I mean, he did a lot of stuff, but not a lot of people.
He's still around. He's taking his side. I mean,
He's
he
still
did
part of the
a
trail
good
committee,
work.
or is he?
I haven't seen him at the meetings, and I don't think he's been at any of the meetings, but he's still involved in the mapping.
Okay.
So if there's questions.
There's
Yeah,
questions
it'd be good
in the
to-
website. He's like a web master guru type of thing
Yeah.
too, or something along
Yeah,
those
he handles
lines.
website currently in the map updates.
Right.
Okay.
And there's been some talk about emails, and volunteers, and
Oh.
all that kind of stuff that's going on. The trails, basically the Trails Committee is basically involved, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but they're basically involved in the maintenance of the stuff to make sure that
Yes.
signage is up there, that there's no blowdowns, that aren't people, aren't mountain bikers out there building ramps to jump over, trees, and that dogs don't poop all over the place, and those are kinds of things that the group gets together, the people who walk these things all the time, say, oh, by the way, I saw this tree down, or this bridge has got a board broken in it, and it comes back to that person. Right now, it's coming back to all of us, and then it comes back to her,
Yeah, or it comes back to me and I send it to the Trails Committee.
who sends it
If I
back to
can't
her.
handle it myself. Yeah.
Well, what do you want me to do with it? But that's what's going on with it. It's an interesting group. I'll tell you, a lot of people have been there a while.
Okay. So you mentioned like gathering data from maps. Is there other data that is being gathered or interested in? I was wondering if there was other things you were collecting about the land, like if he was regularly walking the land and maybe gathering other information.
So he, to my understanding, was just more strictly regarding the mapping and GPS data and make sure the trails, because the trails, not that they all weren't mapped, but it wasn't basically confirmed that they were on the proper
Right.
parcels or proper easements, so that was a huge help for him to go through and get those points to be able to overlay them and say, okay, this is where it's supposed to go.
Okay.
However, right now, we are collecting data on invasive species. We just kicked off our invasive species management program, so that's something we're starting at Fifeshire Dam Conservation Area. And so we're collecting data regarding that. We are in March, I'm still waiting to hear back on a date, partnering with Mass Wildlife to do deer tracks, or deer survey, walking tracks throughout a few of the conservation properties to basically look at where they've been, whether it be pellets or some brushing.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're certainly, I mean, it's a value. I think Bob Romer's working on some projects as
Yep.
well.
There's also been talk about guided tours. And
Yes, so. we have
guided
a few
walks,
of those as
and,
well.
getting the kids, getting more people involved in the trails.
Just getting them out there.
Yeah, getting out, yeah.
But,
And making sure that you only have one dog leash.
yeah. one
Is
dog.
that a limit?
That is a limit.
There's a limiting issue.
One dog per hand.
One dog per
Per
hand.
hand.
For adult hand, yes.
Yeah,
It's been a topic,
Yep.
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. You're all the way over there.
You like your hand in there?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
We actually have one other person that applied, so we'd like to get them in to talk to them as well.
Sure.
But I'm hopeful we'll be in touch. And say regards, like Trails Committee is always looking for members.
Yeah.
Conservation Commission's looking for members generally
Yes.
too. That's always a fun one to apply to.
Have an email?
Yes, it is ANBRAS
AND
RES
RES.
.march@gmail.com.
At Gmail. I'll send you some information on Trails Committee.
Okay.
Some of the minutes and some of the stuff that they.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the trail maps come out and all the work he's done there, but I'm surprised I didn't even know that there was a Trails Committee. I mean, I've been a little busy, but,
Well, I'll send it along to you, some of that stuff, and
Okay.
put you on the volunteer list so you can go pull, not weed.
All
right.
Play with chainsaws on trails. It's all sorts of,
All right.
Poison ivy, you're allergic to poison ivy, right?
No.
So good. See, that's a benefit right there. That's a plus right there, you can do a chainsaw and not allergic to poison ivy.
We've covered 90% of everything.
All right.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming out. Yeah, appreciate the interest.
Anything I should stick around for? Or is it-
It's an exciting meeting, stick around.
Couple certificates of compliance, and we might be talking more dog rules.
All right, I have a couple minutes next year, so.
Yeah.
Understand.
All right,
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thanks for meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Um, 256
Oh, this
hospital.
is.
That's,
Fine.
yeah. Oh, I did not sign it.
Didn't I sign this already? It's not.
No, that's the COC we just did, the Harvard Road one.
This is the first one.
256. Okay. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for a certificate of compliance requested by Robert Pace Sr. on behalf of the property owner of 256 West Berlin Road, public meeting to be held this evening. That's the school calling. Is anybody here for 256 West? Do you want to, any of this? Site inspection log?
This
What is
one's
this?
actually done. So this was a septic.
Are those the Pace houses right by the border? Urban,
This is, yes,
right?
yep.
Go
This is
right.
right on the border. So this property has it has a conservation restriction on the property along with the order of conditions. And the conservation restriction was recorded, at least a year ago, if not longer. This is the lot. That will help you. So the septic, well, I pulled the plans anyway, here.
I'm gonna work my way back. Yeah. goes right to the middle of his house. All right.
As well, so this was.
Was it a failed septic? Was that it? And then new septic going in? I'm just trying to remember the project.
So this was construction of a new single-family dwelling with a portion of the retaining wall and yard within the adjacent upland resource area. The proposed wells also in this area. The applicant proposed to place a permanent conservation restriction on 4.8 acres of land, mitigation for the loss and alteration of the upland resource area.
And that's way in the back, right? Now I'm remembering this one. This is
Yes,
the one that
that's
shot, is this across from, it's not across from Sharkey Farm.
Yes.
Is it right across the street, right on it, right?
Yeah. Over here.
Yeah, and it went way, I mean, the land piece shoots way back.
Way
You can see
back.
on this one. You see this whole section, so here's like Shiner Farms over here. You can kind of see that, most of this is all wooded, and then you even come back, way back here. To me, and I think they were turning all of this over, or
Yeah.
that's the 4 whatever acres was that whole back section, if I remember correctly. Because it wasn't just, I think it wasn't just the septic, it was like the kind of the whole, not so much the whole layout, but they had,
Yeah. So
they
this
had issues getting like, it was one of those where you couldn't really wrap your arm around the whole house, you could only do 3 sides, so we kind of had to give them a little bit so they could kind of get around the corner at least. And then they were giving back those 4 acres.
So it's the
Yeah.
Shartner, APR, Shartner, APR, and then
No,
that
yeah.
conservation restriction is basically surrounding.
Yeah, and I think that was part of what we looked at too, is that it was adjacent to all the agricultural preservation restrictions, so it just made one big contiguous plot.
And there's no encroachment, and the area is stable at this point.
That's what I was gonna say, is it up?
Yeah.
She's scared, yeah, all right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 256 West Berlin Road. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Laura, did you second that? Yes.
With authority.
I know.
Paper. Or Conservation Commission.
Well, I'm assuming it's close, there's probably no afternoon classes or something. Either of you here for 15 Hubbard?
No, I had volunteered also, but I'm not sure for any position. Bill Payne,
Oh,
For
I saw an article in the paper in December, and I sent you an email.
the land steward position?
I'm not sure it was land
Or
steward position.
just the conservation
Just
commission?
conservation.
Yes.
Commission in
Yep.
general.
Yep. Did you, were you just sitting through a meeting to see how?
No, this is the first time I've ever showed up.
Oh, very good.
Showed up a little late, so.
You're welcome.
that's good. We'll bug you more in a minute.
Yeah.
Brought me along.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And Jane Walsh?
Susan Jones.
Susan Jones, yeah.
That's
That's a potential land donation that will just brush on.
Okay, so do we not have, or do you?
So Jane isn't here.
Okay.
She is sick. However, do you want me to?
No, I mean, we can do the 7:45. I just wasn't, nobody was here for the 7:45, and I thought it might be Jane. I was like, why don't we just talk to her now? But we can quickly say the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for a certificate of compliance requested by Kurt Dutcher for 15 Hubbard Lane. Public meeting to be held this evening.
So you should have a site visit report. Coincidentally, myself, planning, and the DPW were all out on the same site visit without realizing it, until we know about it. However, so the first site visit that we are all at, on their property. There were a few outstanding items which were marking the boundaries, and then at the time, there was about 3 feet from snow drifts of snow, so I couldn't see that there was the riverfront area memorialized by boulders, which was part of the order of conditions. Also, a question that was addressed while planning and our new DPW director was there was the pitch to the driveway at the bottom. It is at a slight pitch so that it answered any questions or concerns associated with potential runoff issues for sheeting off the driveway. The markers were placed, advising from the order of conditions across the boundaries of the property that abut conservation land, which are along this back area and then around to the front, not obviously the one that's adjacent to the neighbor. This was placed at 100-foot intervals, so there's about one on each side. There's actually a couple more in there. What they posted were the conservation boundary markers that we have. The boulders are there. As I said, I was able to do a second site visit, which then, like I said, I saw the boundary markers and the boulders.
Boulder?
Yes. that's big rocks.
We've had it requested sometimes by developers.
To move the boulder?
Well, there's so many on site, depending if they're doing foundations or whatnot, instead of doing like a split rail fence, to do a series of boulders, so you can't get a vehicle through. And to, to mark where the boundary zone is, and to use those to mark, which we've got, I guess, more of a natural boundary, which
That's what they did
No,
100,
does in the past.
that's what they did 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Nobody moves.
yeah,
Nobody moved.
they're still there.
Still there.
Yeah, they were run out, no one could paint them, yeah. So it sounds like it looked, from what you saw, they're meeting the order of conditions. All that said, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 15 Hubbard Lane. All those in favor?
Aye.
So issued.
Is this the house that the guy said this is the biggest boulder in Boston? And he come in here,
I remember that conversation.
No, that was,
somebody went to, and
I think that was
I had to take
Lawrence Road.
somewhere, I forgot, but he said this is the biggest boulder in Bolton. I have no idea.
I do remember that conversation.
Yeah, I remember the
And I'm laughing like, I'm giving one day.
Yeah.
But they were moving here from like San Diego or someplace strange.
There's a lot of big boulders. I was gonna say, have you been in the way?
Hard to tell. We should know, we should do a survey. You can.
Find your favorite rock.
Yeah.
That'd be a good
Identify the
contest for
largest
us.
What?
Identify the water, just
Yeah,
boulder.
that'd be
rock,
good,
boulder.
yeah. But they, we could sell your name on a folder, donate to the.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll sandblast this.
Yeah.
That'd be great, yeah.
We'll just
Right,
spray
you know,
paint, white
yeah,
spray
white,
paint.
That's even better. You know, we change it every year.
There you go.
I know. All right, those are our public hearings.
Do you want me to just touch upon the dissertation? He's not here.
Please, yeah, and she's
She's what?
she's looking for basically permission.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jane Walsh reached out to me after reading a little bit Sudbury Valley trustees did a red flag project. One of their interns created it where basically they placed a red flag where there is dog poop on specifically open space or conservation property or publicly used properties. Because of the chemical content compared to wildlife, basically what your dog eats is a little bit unnatural. And that eventually gets into the waterways and affects the runoff nutrient content. So her dissertation research, she's asking permission to do a similar project, but hers is a little bit more involved in terms of the analysis on some of the public conservation properties. And she has asked permission to survey the users, so I guess She wants to be sure that there's no solicitation issues on conservation properties, so she would like to ask our permission to do so in terms of asking basic questions to dog walkers and non-dog walkers. She also was interested in looking at properties that either have waste bags and trash bags or they don't, to see who carries in and carries out with that sort of a comparison. So that's what it is thus far. She sort of gave me a summary, but she has said that she'd be willing to share any data or feedback she gathered, which I think would be beneficial, considering we just approved the dog rules and regulations on conservation land.
What's, what college, university, what's the dissertation for?
I honestly forget. I have it written down in my office though. And that's why I wanted her to come in so she could explain a little bit. But I can get that information and email it to you.
Did she could come back? At the next meeting?
She can.
Reschedule?
I can ask her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
So I would imagine she's probably not planning to start really until the spring.
I'm not sure. She wanted to start as soon as possible is the idea I got when I was speaking to her on the phone. That's why she had asked to be placed on the next meeting agenda, but obviously she didn't plan on being sick. So I think she'd like to start as soon as possible, but it's probably mindful that more people will be out and about with the warmer weather.
Well, I don't want to hold her up, but it would, like, if possible, meet with her,
Okay.
especially if she's planning to do intercepts. I'm sure she's more than qualified to intercept people,
Yeah.
but I'd like to actually see, talk to the
Yeah.
person before sending back and forth.
Right. So February 20th.
But in general, I mean, if you talk to her, the general idea, I think it's great research she's doing, and just being able to share the research, fine for us, I think, see.
Yeah, I believe her degree is in conflicts and resolutions.
So good, so she probably gets
So-
intercepted.
Yeah, my assumption, and she was pleasant to talk to, just on the phone. She seemed very articulate. Not that that's saying much, but
Seems like a good thing.
yeah, it's definitely not the negative.
Did you have additional topics you want us to go through?
I held 2 dog rules and regulations on conservation land public forums, both from 5 to 6 on Wednesdays here in the Houghton building. The first one, it was just myself and the animal control officer, and the second was just myself because the animal control officer could not show up. So as these impact more people, I expect more people to become vocal about it. So as we get into spring, I'll hold another one, invite people to come. I have heard only 1 complaint thus far, and it was focusing on the horse poop that's left on trails, but again, noted in the rule and regulations, it does say domestic animals. So I'm not sure if that's a direct classification, but if they're trail riding, I would consider that a domesticated animal. And along with that, there was mention of the commercial dog walkers and limiting where they can take their animals. And we're not limiting where they can take their animals, they can still take the animals there, it's just in smaller numbers. So they may need to take more trips, but that's all. So those were the only complaints thus far, or even concerns thus far. I've heard a few positive comments as well, so we'll see as it progresses what comes out of the woodwork.
And the selectmen seem open to it.
Yes.
And they were behind it, and then especially getting the public input. figure we'll.
We got a post that one of those like kiosks.
Yes, so it's currently posted at Rattlesnake Conservation Area on the 117 trail
Yeah.
and Bower Spring on the kiosk.
What about the one over at Valley?
I have not done that yet, but we can do that.
That's a pretty nice kiosk, and the one at Sugar Road, right?
Yeah.
It's not Sugar Road, it's corner of,
Old-
is it, yeah, Old Sugar
Sugar,
Road.
Yeah, Old Sugar.
But you put one there too?
No, not yet.
I have this is probably off the wall question, but have we run out of bags at the dog thing in Bower Springs? Is that being used, or is it just?
It is being used quite regularly. We have a stock of bags when it becomes empty, back at my office in the container.
Is anybody tracking it?
Um,
No, but I mean, I was just wondering because because I thought when we talked about putting that in,
mhm.
that if it worked, we were gonna put it
Other
in
places.
different places.
Correct.
So I didn't know, that was on my list of things to ask about, whether that was actually working or whether people were just ignoring it, bringing Stop and Shop bags and leaving them by the side of the trail.
Nope, so it has been working, and there was, I think, twice that it was empty for a week,
Yeah.
and people brought shopping bags and left it on the side of the
That is real,
kiosk, which isn't
yeah.
terrible.
No.
But
So I'm aware.
yeah, we're just encouraging people not to do that, and
Yeah.
so we can refill it. The other concern with that, in terms of having them on other properties, I was just about to put that on the agenda when Jane Walsh called, and when she had brought up to me that she would like to look at properties with and without the
Oh.
bags, it may be, that's why I had hesitated, because I thought maybe this is a good opportunity to get some baseline data for her, and then as we move forward into spring, she'll have enough data where if we put something there, it'll help her as well.
Good.
Yeah.
So she does have to get in here.
Yes.
Good.
And we're still working off our initial bag inventory, right? We
Yes.
did not really, so we, hopefully we should be able to assess when that's almost gone, what we go through, what we did go through this year.
Yep.
Because as part of that 5-year plan for budget, that's,
Right.
especially if we're putting in
That's
more of those,
definitely one.
that's, yeah, it's gonna pop up.
Yep.
Anything else this evening?
We have, this is Susan Jones, if you would like to come up. So Susan had approached us a while back. I believe she was contacting Jeff in the beginning to work on a tax relief state program. And part of that is assessing the land to see conservation value, natural resource value. Since then, she has approached us again to revisit this and potentially donate a parcel to the town or the Conservation Commission or the trust. And right now, it's just preliminary in terms of what our interest level is. I did speak to Don, our town manager, or town administrator, excuse me, and his assistant to get you on the next board of selectmen agenda to see what their level of interest is.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but the first step is from us, because I believe they'll most likely be asking what our opinion is as well.
I have a feeling they will, yep.
To sort of orient yourselves, there's Vaughn Hill Road over there, and this is the Town of Bolton Conservation Area. Here is Green Road, the
So
trail
that's the
entrance.
trail, is that the trailhead for Green
No.
Road? No.
The trailhead's about over here,
Yeah, it's a little further down.
and it comes up,
People are walking across here
Yes.
on the pond.
Yep.
So the beaver pond's kind of here.
yeah, so
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
the
yeah,
edge of
that's
the beaver
exactly
pond,
it.
the dam's down here.
And we own
Wait.
this parcel and this parcel, it's 27 acres.
So the parcel that abuts the trail that goes in
That's correct.
Yes,
is
that's this.
is this parcel
Yeah,
right here?
these, yep.
Those two.
These two present.
And around here, there's somewhere around here, right, there's a guy that has a lot of machinery in his.
He
front.
does,
That's
he
it.
has kind of
Okay,
stuff.
all right, so I'm oriented in what's
Yeah,
going on.
and this is the Hanson land.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we bought this, so we've been in discussions with Jeff about doing something with this parcel of land, this whole lot. And in my investigations, I discovered this Massachusetts Conservation Land Tax Credit Program. It's a mouthful. Basically, if you donate a piece of, if you donate land, they'll give you up to 50% of the value, up to a max of 100, if it's 150K, then it's 75K tax credit. So there's there's a financial incentive to do this. But mainly since we've been living here and we're in.
Where do you live there?
We live here.
Okay.
We're in Reading. This is the house that's at the top of North.
Oh, I know where that is. Way at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so we live in Reading now, and we're moving here after my daughter graduates.
Is she moving with you?
She'll go to
I was
college.
gonna say, she's going, yeah, she's going to go.
I don't know where that is.
Hopefully, maybe, yeah.
So I'm holding this piece, and we had wanted, like this I really think is the buildable piece. And we were thinking to hold that until, and I really don't want to build here and I don't want to sell it, but if she ends up going to like a regular college, it might be a way to fund college that way. But she's got a very good chance at the Naval Academy, so I think that is probably not going to happen. We don't have to do that.
So you access your property from here?
So the way, this is a road.
Okay.
They did it
Right.
up there now, a common driveway.
Okay.
And we really love this land and love this property. And people regularly, like my neighbor regularly cuts across to the conservation land. And then there's lots of people that take, this is all the trail, this is the conservation trail around the beaver pond. I would really like to see this go to the conservation land because it's already being used that way and
Right.
it's already part of the trail system. So in making all that happen, right now there's an easement to this big lot, is this one, which goes behind my neighbor's house. And I thought that's a terrible thing. Like if we kept this and sold this, that was the access, the fifth common driveway access to this piece of land. And that's a terrible thing for them. Literally their house is like right next to this. So we thought if we're doing this at this time, we would propose to move that easement over here. And Rebecca's been out to take a look and we've had lots of discussions about this and she saw no problem with trying to move that and I have the agreement of my neighbors to move that. And then as time went on and we went to get the appraisal to do the donation of this, first we got this drawing and then realized that the way it's drawn, I thought that leaving this access here was enough to consider this buildable. But this is wetlands, and in order to consider it buildable, there are certain conditions it didn't seem to really meet.
Yeah, so what,
So we're talking about modifying this drawing to bring this easement over to that property to make it considered buildable.
for the assessment?
For the assessment,
I
for
see.
the value.
Okay.
I see.
Then make the
You're not planning on
donation.
building on it, you just
No,
want
that's
to
for
give
the
it some.
tax credit
Yep, yep.
program.
And so I guess we're asking, are you interested in this piece of land to join in with the rest of the conservation land and protect that for people's access going forward? So that's.
People aren't using that trail though, are they? It goes along the side of the pond.
This,
Right,
this
so this
is
is
that
the side of the
trail.
pond, right?
Yeah, the pond is probably,
The pond is, this is literally the edge of the
yeah,
pond.
and there's a trail that goes along here and ends
Yeah.
up at the
The
at the
dam.
beaver dam, and
Yes,
then it cuts
exactly.
across and down.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that. That's my, me and Ozzy are out there a lot.
Right, because I mean, as some people point out, I hate to say it in today's day and age, but that's a liability for us.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Yes.
have you ever actually given permission for that?
No, I mean,
And there's no
when we
historic
moved in,
easement or
it's
anything,
clear
yeah.
this land
Yeah.
has been in use for ages in the property, in the town.
Yeah. but you have nothing protecting you.
Nothing on the
And
deed.
there's nothing,
Nothing that.
No easement.
there's no,
current
No
easement.
there's
easement
nothing
there.
protecting the people using it today.
Mhm.
That says they even have permission to
Right.
use the property, except because it's, how is it, you know, it's like people have been doing it for years and years.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, but you could stop it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I said you could stop it tomorrow.
Technically,
Yes.
I wouldn't want to.
No, but in this day and age.
Yes.
Good.
So I guess what we're looking for is support that you'd be interested in this piece of property. And we'll be redrawing this to move the easement over to here. And we even talked about whether that easement would stay across this, and it might
Oh, right.
provide you emergency access if you
Yeah.
needed.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, that's a
because
good
what
idea.
part of this is, once it gets donated, to my understanding,
Yeah.
the easement, instead of coming all the way to this parcel, it would just come to this parcel. And then for a driveway easement, but potentially leave it open for utility or emergency access easement. Is our cat road already there, or?
Yeah, there is actually.
there?
Off of here, there's like a shoulder, like there's a cart road that's already there. In
Mhm.
fact, Ducharme and Dillis, when they did some septic system testing,
Mhm.
they drove a little,
Okay.
a small little tractor
Yeah.
down there to do what they, to
Mhm.
do the digging that they needed to do. And they used an existing cart road to do that.
Well, why do we, if you put the if you go to all the trouble of moving the easement just to get the appraisal, why can't you just say, if we did it, and just leave the easement there? Isn't there a if-or thing going? I don't know the
See, I don't
financing
know, but I
on it.
will say the way, they're doing this because they can only have 5 lots attached to the common driveway. So if they leave it here, I don't know, I'm not familiar with planning board or how
Yeah,
the
me
tax
neither.
credit would review it, or the tax program would review it, but it makes it a whole lot more clear if it comes back to here. This
Right.
is something we were talking about, it wasn't something
That's a legal
suggested,
issue.
yeah, it's more of a legal
But
technicality.
what you're planning on and giving to the trust is this lot, the skinny leg lot that's going on right here.
Yeah.
And
Which
then
abuts the green road,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, because there's a brook here somewhere,
that,
right?
it's
Right here.
actually
That's
right
following
on
it, yeah.
Oh, that's
that.
it.
Yeah, it's right on that. And I
Perennial
guess
stream?
they drew the, you know, the 200-foot water mark or whatever, they
Yeah.
used that.
I was gonna say, I think, no,
Oh,
maybe we
I thought this was the water line.
That's what, see,
and
that's
then
what I
the
thought
stream,
too.
Yeah, me too.
Because that's,
It could be.
I
There's
bet
a
you-
There is a
stone
little.
wall that kind of.
There is a stone wall back in there
Yeah.
too.
And I think it's kind of right along this
Yeah,
property.
it is.
yeah.
I go in there a lot, that's where I pull the truck in and take
Yeah.
off the buzzing.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of people have been throwing trash into that. There's a gully right there
Yeah.
too, that people,
I think too,
lots of beer cans in there these days.
because it's been plowed, that's
Yeah,
one of the parking areas that
Yeah.
gets plowed, I think it's getting, the trash is just getting.
Yes,
pushed in,
I've been picking up
unfortunately.
It's a big.
beer cans and
Yeah.
debris
Yeah.
when I go on the walk, I throw in the back of the truck and,
What was the total acreage?
Well,
Oh,
this
Just under
piece
8.
ends up being just under 8.
Okay.
how much? 8?
Say, normally we'd say, oh, we should do a site visit, site walk to go out there. I mean, I know this
I do.
property pretty well, I don't know.
And Rebecca's actually
Been out. I was gonna say that
was
would-
Maybe you were, I don't know how far you went into the property, but.
I thought that trail that you're talking about that's in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thought that
I
was an
that was
easement,
an
yeah,
easement.
yeah, I would have thought too,
Right,
right?
you know, I didn't think it was,
Yeah.
because as you walk from this end of it, there's a sign that says private property over here.
Yeah,
And then when
that's,
you walk around it, there's another sign over there. that
so
says private
someone
property.
so the trail that the McCaskills take from their property to get over here, someone put a private property sign. So when you're
Yeah.
on this trail and this little trail goes
Ah,
off,
so they
Right.
you
left
see
where they
that
go
private
up, yeah.
property sign.
Right.
That's because, well, that trail really is
Basically
crossing
just his
the
little land,
bulk
yeah.
of this, and it really is
Private
there.
property.
And I think they just had an understanding with, say, Layton or Bundy afterwards, you know, because they've been around that far back, that they could cross this
Yeah, just
property, and
walk.
he didn't care.
Yeah.
And I don't care either. I'm happy that people are finding use for it. And in fact, I even was concerned about their access to legal access. If I ever sold this, they lose that option
they
to
could-
cross across. So while we haven't executed on this, there's a potential, this piece belongs to this property too. It's actually a really funny, it's this piece, and this piece. We were going to offer that because they expressed an interest of a buffer if we were to ever sell this. They were interested in this buffer to kind of help them out with their property. And then we were gonna peel off a little bit so they could walk to conservation.
Oh, yeah.
And they were going to buy
Yeah.
that, little, but we kind of put the whole thing last, like, April, May timeframe. I, got the wrong impression. I was like, oh, I can't deal with this. And then my daughter started applying for colleges, and just the rest is history. But then somehow, I got my tax assessment bill. And then the tax assessors are trying to tax us on all 3 pieces of land. And anyway, it's a long story, but that made me get back on the ball and either straighten out the taxes or figure out how to make this happen.
Like I said, I think I'm familiar with the property to an extent. I know Rebecca's been out there. Usually we have to do a due diligence walk.
Yeah.
When and if we get to that point. And I should review our open space and rec plan, but the fact that it does abut conservation land, not only that, but it's already kind of in use.
Like that.
But people use the conservation land.
Right.
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't recommend to the selectmen
I
that
don't
they would
either.
accept it.
I don't either.
Like I say, unless there's something crazy, weird watch out pops up, I would 100% be in favor of accepting the gift.
I'd second that. I don't see any problem with that. I had no idea it wasn't
That's
conservation.
fine.
When you look at something about woods and rocks and boulders,
Yeah, that's right, if you look
very pretty.
at Jeff's maps, even, it shows like some X's that show like private trails that just kind of.
Yes,
Yeah.
And, he was trying to show that, and it also shows that there's not an easement there.
I didn't notice that,
Yeah.
but I did notice that on either end of that, when you go from, where the intersection is, where you go up to the North Peak. And
Yes.
I don't know, that if you walk that way, there's a thing that says private property here, and as you walk around it, over here, there's a private property.
Yeah.
I just assumed that was a trail. It was a trail, it is a trail.
Yeah, but it's a private trail.
There's another trail that, on the other side of the beaver pond, and it goes up the hill to this part.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get up to the swimming pool area from there. And then right beneath the back side of the property is ledge, and that's where that steep hill is.
It's a big drop off.
Right.
Yep.
And so there's a trail that kind of goes up high there, and Jeff had come in with the conservation trail signage to kind of say, like, here's the boundary, this is
Right.
private
Right,
property. So
right.
he'd gone in and tried to mark that off. And then to discourage people from really coming up there, he helped put up a private property
Right.
sign on that side.
Right.
So he put that up.
So that we can't get to the swimming pool at any time.
No, that's the part of the deal.
I'd love to have them.
So the only thing, I think it's a beautiful property, there's already access on the property.
Right.
That would be wonderful to have ownership over. The only thing that I mentioned that may be a concern of the Board of Selectmen, and I know it's a concern of our old DPW director in terms of potential hazards, not right now, it's not a hazard, and it's a natural hazard, is the large beaver dam there. So that's really, and then, like I said, the
But
wetlands,
it's
but
not,
that's not really an issue.
It's not really on this property, it's on Hanson land.
I believe, that's what we're trying to figure out. Our town administrator asked me to just see where it is. I did take some GPS points, but I don't feel confident to say one way or the other because it's either on the line or it's just over on either side. I've been out there a couple of times and then averaged my GPS points, and I don't have the skill set, I would say, to be able to confidently say one way or another. But like I said, the beavers are managing it pretty well right now and keeping it intact. So as long as it's intact, it's not an issue. But
How long has it been there?
for a very long time. So that's why with active beavers, it should be fine. And it's been monitored in the past by, I think now she might be the regional director of Mass Wildlife. I'd have to double check exactly. But this was years past before my time. So it has been monitored, and on top of that, it is something that as soon as I mention beavers, or oh, we have a new beaver dam, or there's beaver activity, it's always, oh, is it on Green Road? So I know it's a hot topic with people, and that's why I would like to confirm where that is, to be able to put everyone's mind at ease, or to say, you know what, it's on town property, so we own it regardless type of thing. But I don't think it's necessarily a halt all on the project by any means.
So I think there'd be, just so you understand, I think there'd be a couple of steps. Like, one is to have the plan redrawn. We're actually gonna hold on to all of this right now, because we're just not really certain. And we never agreed to anything, like they expressed interest, but I don't have a deal.
Sure. Yep.
And I'd rather unhook whatever's going on here from whatever we're doing here. So we're going to redraw this, draw the easement here, and then just clean this up and absorb that back in, like some other future plan will deal with that. And we need an appraisal. Then I need to get a real estate appraisal person in to appraise this for the state of Massachusetts. We're already accepted into the program.
Okay.
Just waiting for our appraisal. And I can't do that without, I don't know if I need a deed or if I need just the plan. So I have to check back with them. I saw an email, I was trying to get behind that. I think I had been approached John Avery of Avery Associates to do the appraisal. And then, once I get that, that puts us in line in that program. And they're going into 2019 with the funds. But he said come January 2019, we could execute on this. And so
Right,
that's
yeah,
kind of
it's
the
ready to go.
timeline that I'd be looking at to try and complete the project.
Okay.
Right. Makes sense.
As soon as we cross into 2019 and we're approved into the program, they're just setting aside whatever funds come out of the appraisal. Then there's one more appraisal that would have to happen, I understand, from the IRS's point of view, because it has to be within 60 days of the donation. So there's two of these appraisals. And I think back in the past, I had approached, I was talking to Jeff and Dan Gaffney and the Conservation Trail or Trust. I'm not sure everybody's rules, but we were talking about whether they could help with paying for the, at least one of the appraisals, because I think that's a couple thousand, like it might be $3,000 to $5,000 to have them come out and do that kind of write-up. That's what I don't understand.
That's a whole different question, but I don't see there's an issue with that.
Yeah, I have, maybe I'm talking that, you know, like that.
But the appraisal, you know, us getting involved in the appraisal, that's,
Yeah.
So mainly Rebecca was like, you know, she thought I should come before you guys, let you know what it is we're trying to do and make sure that, you know, are there any objections, and then we'll come back on Thursday and hopefully I'll be more on time.
No, you're great.
So we'll see. I wanted to have it addressed by the commission first, because as I said in the beginning of this, that the Board of Selectmen, I can only imagine, are gonna say, this is great, but what do you think of it? If it needs a formal vote, we'll be able to formalize that at our next meeting if necessary, if we can get on Board of Selectmen's agenda. So,
They might have their agenda for Thursday, February 8th.
I need to double check. I believe that's what we were trying for, but I have to double check the agenda.
Okay.
It should be online at this point.
Is that, okay.
And then, so they would give a formal vote as well if it is necessary as you move the process forward. So when you have a formal, when you have all this ironed out and you come back and say, you know, we're donating the land and showed that you're interested, there's no extreme setbacks, we need to vote on it to accept it. But that comes, like I said, later down the line. But right now, it's just the
Okay.
level of interest. So it's more of an informal setting like this. But like I said, I'm sure they'll be looking to see what the commission's interest was. So this is very helpful.
Okay, good. It would be helpful if I could have something back in writing that, you know, we had this meeting,
Mhm.
that
I can
if
send
you're
you that.
interested,
Sure.
you're documenting that, because now I'm gonna have to pay Deuce Armadillos again to redraw the drawing, and then it's gonna be more money to go through with the appraisal, and I'd hate to go through all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without having
Yeah.
something. We do publish our minutes, so we're
Yeah,
going
and
to
it's
approve those
recorded too.
edits, and we're lovely, we're on
But I
TV, so.
print you out a copy of the minutes.
Excellent.
You, is that stone wall, that's the one that goes up the hill?
Is that the one that's on
Yeah.
Hanson?
Yeah.
On the Hanson
It's
property?
the- And I'm not sure, but this is, I was out there a while back, and the beavers are getting pretty hungry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're just chewing everything up out there, huh?
That was, because I haven't been down.
That's right by the,
I see it.
where the bridge
I
is
know,
there.
I
you
know.
know,
Yeah.
on the
They
way.
have chomped down a lot.
All these little small trees have just
Oh, yeah.
been
Wow.
inhaled.
Because they weren't there the first year that we were there, but they seemed to have come back last year. Wow.
Tree wrapping, which we can talk about too, just
Yes.
powers the
It is a
activity
great
of
trail.
117, the activity, like, there's serious, I don't know, it's the cold weather and they're chopping wood too.
It is
It's like,
very
it's
active.
just a great, it's a
Oh,
great.
great.
Fall,
Yeah.
winter,
Yeah.
spring, because they
Yeah.
don't hibernate.
We love it.
But now that we know there's a swimming pool there.
Yeah. no,
All
Anytime.
right, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming in, thank you for
Nice to
considering
meet
it.
you, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
I'll send you an email once I have the minutes drafted.
Okay.
And then, so they aren't approved until our next meeting.
Yeah.
But I can certainly send you the draft so you have them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you again. Yeah.
I'd shake your hand, but I don't want to give you my.
There's so many jokes going around, yeah, everybody just should wave for the next
Your daughter's
2
going to the
months.
naval,
yeah.
your daughter's going to the Naval Academy?
Actually, I have one son who graduated, he's in Pensacola right now.
Oh.
And I have another one who graduates this spring. One of my daughters.
I have one of my daughter's buddies, he went to the Naval Academy, and he is now commanding a ship over in Japan somewhere.
Yeah.
33 years old, he's got the big
All right.
driving all over the place. You know, I taught him how to drive a car. Now he's driving a ship.
Yeah. Scares me a little bit sometimes, yeah.
Incredible.
Wait a minute.
Couldn't drive the car very well either.
Thank you
Very good
very
work,
much.
Mark. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
So I just have two quick things, just some mail. One is a land conference, and the other is the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions Environmental Conference, annual environmental conference. This
That's
one's
in
at
March.
cost. Yes. Did you sign up for that one?
I did. I haven't signed up for the
Send-
specific
If you
courses.
signed up, send me the receipt. Lori, are you coming?
Come on, though, you know you want to. And I do receive it online, so. I'm
By
still
the
not
way,
sure
Lori,
how I'm going with that.
I just lopped off all the little flowers in the hydrangea.
Did you?
I said, what's worse that's gonna happen?
I know it. Hi.
Thanks for coming in, so you can come on up, you have a chance. So, you know, this is basically, I think tonight was a decent sample of the things we do for Conservation Commission.
got to see.
We're approved for 7 members, right? We currently have 4. So we're always looking for new members. We set up our meeting schedule where we just agreed tonight, it's gonna be the 20th, and then it's gonna be the 7th and the 20th. That's generally what we do, is twice a month. Usually it's Tuesdays. Usually it's been that first and third Tuesday is what we kind of go for. we'll chat like around the holidays, sometimes in the middle of winter, we don't have as many meetings because not so many people are applying, people are away, so maybe we'll do a 1 month meeting. But generally speaking, it's twice a month. We try to get under here in under 3 hours. We've done under an hour, we've done an hour or two.
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
How long have you lived in Bolton?
4 or 5 months now.
4 or 5 months?
Yeah. So I grew up in Concord, right? So I've lived in Concord, Wayland, Lincoln, and there really isn't a trail around that I don't know that's back in Concord, Wayland, or Lincoln, and I'm kind of new here. Right, so I'm an engineer, electrical engineer, so I really don't know a lot about, water or any, stuff like that. But at one point back in the 90s when Reagan and Gorbachev were signing no new treaties and stuff like that, I went back to school for chemistry. I was going to be a hydrologist at that point.
Excellent.
Yeah, but I worked for Raytheon, and Raytheon got busy again, so.
My mother worked for it.
I think I was 2 classes short of getting a minor in chemistry, and they threw me, to all kinds of overtime. And so that was the end of that. So yeah, so I'm interested. I like the outdoors. I like trails. I like the outdoors. I mean,
I was going to say, you can read research, which is
Right.
huge.
Yeah.
One of the things
I'm
Rebecca
trained.
gave us was the MAC conference. It's a Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, and they do an annual conference every year. But as part of that, it's training classes for conservation commissioners. Every town and city is required to have a conservation commission. Very few towns and cities staff them with people who are actually trained wetland biologists in any way, shape, or form.
Wetland subcommittee, I think, next Monday, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I might actually see if I can volunteer at both positions. I have no idea. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so this is more, I guess, the regulatory side of things. As you see, the board will look at plans. I work as an agent for the board. So if they can't make it to a site visit, I'm a site visit or vice versa. I try and provide them with the best information or just keeping in tune with regulation updates. We have a wonderful book. If you would like, Emily has a copy right now, our other commission member who's not here right now. That is literally Conservation Commission Bible. I think myself and 2 other people are the only people who have read it
actually
front
read
to
it?
back. Oh, good, see?
Yeah.
Now we have another one.
No, I have not read it. I didn't know it existed.
But it's very beneficial even just to have in case you have questions to reference back after a meeting, or in basically just the workflow things of, what's next, okay? They came in with the notice of intent, or now they need a certificate of compliance. Why would we give them a certificate of compliance? What work have they completed? It's beneficial for that. It's also, we have the local wetland bylaw. I would say the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest significant portion of that to memorize is the 25-foot no disturb buffer around all wetland resource areas. And then, aside from that, like Brian was touching on.
So is that something I can get online?
Yes, yes.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of
The bylaws
resources
online.
online.
Because there's,
Most of
there's
those.
a beaver pond up behind my house, too.
Mhm.
Really, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
And I have goats and all kinds of
Excellent.
dogs and cats
No
and bees and
alpacas?
chickens.
Yeah,
No alpacas. But the goats are little tiny guys.
yeah.
Whereabouts are you?
Off of Wilder Road.
Okay. Nice house back there. So we've been out there.
So
for
the
a few
beaver
times.
dam, yeah, is down.
Yeah, I was gonna
down
say,
by-
yeah, no.
Down lower, down by
Yep,
where
down by
the
the pond.
liquor store is, back the other side down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been very active too.
They're not in there right now. They haven't been there since I've lived there.
I think there was some issue.
I thought that lodge was broken.
Across from where?
There's a dam there, but the beavers aren't, not there.
Oh, yes, they-
Where? Across from the liquor store? Or lower?
Yeah, across from the liquor
By the-
store. The Still River comes out
Yeah.
pretty much right in front of the liquor store. If
So-
you come up a couple
Yeah.
hundred, maybe
About-
150 yards, there's a pond, beaver pond there, but
Yeah.
the beavers are not there right now.
About 2 culverts down, there's a lot of fever activity that
Oh, really?
we've been
Yeah.
keeping an eye on, and even since last week, it's gotten a lot.
They'll
more
be back,
active.
is my guess.
Yeah. So resources are available online. There's ways to learn. Most of us came to this cold. We have a thing called an associate membership too, which I did originally too. It's basically a non-voting member. So you can,
Right.
you can be a committee member, you can still vote, right.
Yes.
Not always necessary to go that route. If you want to continue to come to meetings for a while and sit, watch, listen, great. If you have interest in possibly joining, I would say talk to Rebecca. It's not a hard procedure. Basically, they'll ask you to write a letter saying I'm interested in why, and we have sample letters. And it's actually the Board of Selectmen that gets to approve commission members. So we basically have to submit something to them saying here's a person who's applying. It's a volunteer position, but it's a 3-year term. So we hope you would serve out your 3 years, but you can leave at any point in time. After 3 years, you can always re-up if you're a masochist. Sorry.
Actually,
I was going to say, how many years has it been in Lord? So,
actually very,
we keep coming at it.
I think it's pretty interesting.
It is, I was going to
To tell you the
say.
truth, it's, you know.
No, I'm outdoors all the time anyways.
We
You know, you were
can-
talking about the Trails Committee earlier too. I mean, that might be a good place to to really, get your hands dirty and learn
Yes.
what's going on too.
Anytime.
But we
Once a month.
always need commission members.
Yes.
And, it's, if you have the ability to think and reason, it's wonderful to see. I mean, a lot of times, we have to research, we have to read, we have to think, but it's difficult. It's not, you can't always staff every commission in town with people who are able to do that. Especially when it comes to conservation, most of us would say it's relatively important in our lives or going forward in the future of our country possibly. It's nice to have people who aren't afraid to do a little bit of research, think about something logically, reasonably. Really appreciate that. The town really appreciates anybody that can volunteer on any commission, because we should sure use the help.
No, I'm very interested.
Guess I would say,
All we need now is your routing number.
yeah,
your
you
number.
have 2 credit cards. Our next meeting is the 20th. Please come to our next meeting if you want. If you really.
Meeting, and I think I should talk to you at some point.
I was gonna say,
I'm in the office 9 to at least 3, if not longer. I'm actually there before, so if you ever come early, if you have to stop by before work or something.
Where's the office? Here?
Town hall.
Oh, town hall.
Yep, it's right up the road.
I can try that.
But just knock on the window.
But you're usually there about 8:30?
I'm there at 7:30, depending. Depending.
Because I get up and, I have to go feed the goats and chickens.
No, and that's fine, but I'm
And
saying.
then try to get to work, I have to drive to Andover most days,
Yeah.
so I can stop in at
Yep.
that point.
Yeah, or even shoot me an email or call the day before and say, are you going to be
Yeah,
here this
I'll
time?
let you know.
Yeah.
That'll work out. That's good.
Did you ever rent out your goats?
Oh,
we
actually,
no, we've been looking into goat rentals, and we're like,
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're,
They're not that just.
goats will eat everything.
Everything.
They
That's
eat, including
excellent.
poison ivy.
Yeah, that's what we're really.
That's what we need.
But they're picky, right? They're like a kid, they're gonna eat what they like first. And then when there's nothing left, they'll eat the stuff that you really want them to eat.
How many goats do you have?
We've got 2 females and a neutered male right now. The 2 females are pregnant, so come springtime.
And a
I'll
neutered
be
male,
good.
2 females and a neutered male.
Yeah.
That's masochistic.
They have the neutered male, just teach the females how odd a male is, right?
I thought they were both pregnant females. So I was like,
Yeah, so I had to
it might be
bring
time for a new vet.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Oh, no, you have
trying to
to-
put that one together.
I had to bring them to a woman in Harvard. And it's driveway breeding, I guess is what they call it. So you show up, she puts a collar and a leash on your goat, you bring the goat out of your car, right? And 15 minutes later, they're bringing it, throw it back in the car, and they say, "Go home," and it's $150 later, right? It's like, oh, jeez.
How many goats?
That's going through it.
Just, yeah.
How many, what do they call
You
baby
could-
goats?
You'll end up
Kids,
with 2 or
kids.
3.
2
or 3 per. I mean, the goats that I have were triplets. No, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting.
My
Right.
daughter worked over at the farm over at Audubon for a long time, and they had lots of goats over there.
In Lincoln?
Yeah, and but they weren't pets. They had a bad day, eventually, but anyway. Poison ivy would be good.
No, they eat poison ivy, they do.
Yeah, yeah. Good idea.
And that's what we keep thinking about.
It's too bad that we
Can you
need
rent
rock
the goats out and stuff like that?
So we
Well,
have
there are
invasive species
businesses
and
nearby.
a
They eat
number.
quite a bit too.
Yeah.
But they
and
are
it's-
picky.
You know, it's a non-chemical way, you know, to pen off and have them clear an area, especially to look at parking
Or permit.
areas for conservation areas, like our parking areas, it's the perfect thing to use. As far as not hurting the land, cleans everything
Yeah, and I
nice.
use electric fencing with, solar panels everywhere I take them.
Yeah, yeah. So it could be a second industry for you too. over time.
Yeah, there you
Go
go.
ahead.
Like when I retire.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you know, I'll try to stop by maybe next week or something like that.
Yeah, excellent.
And I'll show up to the next meeting too.
Yeah. It'll be fun and exciting, I guarantee. Always good.
And when the spring hits, maybe I'll see if I can get on the trails too.
I will say, like, we moved here about 6 years ago. I'm trying to think, and I was in the joint trails committee up here with conservation, but a lot of times we'll have to go out for site walks, site inspections before we'll talk about something. And it's a great way to learn the town and the trails, but also to see like a lot of the back lots, a lot of the areas where.
There's
in question
trails
which
up behind
you
my
don't
house
have
that aren't conservation trails, I don't know who owns them.
Where, off of Wilder? On the Wilder Pond side?
No,
Or
there's
further down.
conservation land there, but if you
Yeah.
head, I think you head south down Forbush, I think is the name of
Or
it.
Bush?
From my backyard, I'm at Forbush, right, and if I head south down, there's a lot of trails out back there. They go right down to the cemetery that's off of Wilder Road,
Oh.
Lancaster Cemetery.
Those, a few of them may be from the state building there that have just been there for years, but those aren't maintained by.
No, I don't think they're maintained by
I
anybody.
didn't even know where they were.
I don't even know.
I was like, ooh.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm
There's
I'm
a lot-
lost
yeah,
on where
there's
you
quite
are.
a few
I
trails
know
out
on
there.
Forbush Road, the recycle center and the liquor store, that's about it.
So between the recycle store and Wilder Road, there's a network of trails in there.
Anything at least a liquor store, as far as I'm concerned, the trail went by kid.
Well, actually, you could go behind the liquor store, you could take a little hike up to the solar field, which is a
Yeah.
neat little view too, yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Did we have anything else tonight?
Anyone else? Oh, actually, I do have one thing, I apologize. Lori sent me a nice email about a pesticide
Did you like that?
certification. I did.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, but it's way out.
Yeah, it's a long drive, it's out here,
Hadley?
Hadley, yep.
Mm.
So, I don't know if any of the commission members are interested in doing that, but it's, like I said, a certification program through UMass Extensions.
Mhm.
It's a long drive, but it's a good course.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll have it closer at any point. I was hoping they'd have something on this side of,
I don't know if
What's
they
the-
do, but New England Wildflower Society has other trainings too. I don't believe it's a certification, but I could double check that. But they have similar courses on
and
identification,
they have,
but that's Framingham.
There was some talk at the Trails Committee about getting grants to maybe do things like counting plants and stuff. Is there any grants out there that you could talk about that would be able to, okay, we have plants here and this
Yeah,
plant,
some
that
sort of
plant.
study or
that sort of-
assessment.
I don't know whether that was anything that's worth chatting about, but there was some talk about that at the Trails Committee meeting.
I mean, it would certainly be beneficial to have that information.
Wasn't there,
I've been looking to see various grants, that style of a grant or that format or topic, subject matter, has been in my radar. I have yet to find one that pertains to a municipality though. In terms of the conservation department applying or the town applying, there are a lot that nonprofits can apply to, so the trust, I don't know if the Trails Committee is technically a nonprofit,
I
but
would think they are, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
there was some discussion about
With,
what kind of plants are out there.
Yeah, with that, it may be beneficial though to even reach out to, like nearby colleges, to be honest, because dissertation research in Bolton's pretty, diverse in what we have, so.
There we go.
That said, to make the motion that we, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
One
please.
last thing. I
Yes.
don't know if we need to go over it because Jeff's here.
Well, I'm not sure whether or not, I mean, if,
Okay.
I wouldn't mind doing that temporarily, but
Okay.
it's a very big job. I don't really have a problem getting involved with it,
Okay.
you know, and again, take it offline if you want to. I know I can do a good job at it, but,
Yeah.
but it's up to you guys, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure, I am sort of retired,
Yeah.
but I'm not really retired. My
Yeah.
wife keeps saying, how are you gonna replace the money that you
Yeah.
retired?
Yeah.
It's way off topic here. but
Yeah.
I don't have a problem doing any of those kinds of tasks that, you wanna do, and that's where the land steward, you were actually the land steward, right? I mean, basically, it's your baby. I mean, I feel like I think that the job is like being a janitor for the outdoors, to make sure that everything gets done
Yes.
and everything's in good shape and that everything's working.
Yes.
But it's different. I
It
mean,
is in a way. Yeah.
Anyway, I'd love to do it. It wouldn't bother me at all. But, if you could find somebody that's really qualified, with chainsaws and cutting tools and is as, as aggressive as Jeff Lawrence was with the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just learning here,
We're all just.
Yeah.
I did learn how to use a chainsaw, so that's.
There you go.
There we
Step
go,
one.
well done, So, it's up to you guys, you can take it offline. You are alone.
I was just saying, we might email around on that one, to make sure that we include Emily, because I know she really despises you, so.
Yeah, I know.
To say, any make any decisions without looking her back in too.
Well, there was a guy who was part of this, who owned a kennel or something. What happened to him?
He has resigned.
He's
for
resigned?
personal reasons. Yep.
So it's basically Lori, Emily, me, Jeff, I mean,
You can call me Brian.
You can call me-
Yeah.
He'll call
Jeff
you Brian,
Bryan,
you can call him
yes.
Jeff.
and that's it. So we do.
Yeah.
So
I think that's more water. You ought to be
Yeah.
corralled. Don't let him get out the door.
Yeah.
Well, he seems
No,
generally
he's been
interested, so
coming
this is
around.
good. Yeah. So this is good. And Andres, if he becomes a land steward or something else, we can always try to rope
Yeah,
him in a
well,
little later
get
date
him
too,
into the conservation.
before he realizes the difference. Anything else to go over this evening?
Oh, that's it.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
All right. In case, I'd like to make a motion that we officially close the Tuesday, February 6, 2018 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, good night, Bolton Access TV.
So I look.